How's it going, guys and girls? Welcome back to another video. Be you, be unique, and welcome back. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Rachel Zegler. Rachel Zegler, and is the hate justified? Now, there's been a lot of stuff going around, hasn't there? You know, a lot of bad comments and a lot of bad things circulating involving Rachel Zegler, of course. What some people formerly called a talented actress, one of the most talented young actresses, you know, currently in Hollywood, is now being slammed from every direction. And I know that sounded seedy. I know that sounded very, very sexual, but I really didn't mean it to sound that way. But yes, you know, Rachel Zegler, her appearance in Snow White was, of course, frowned upon. It was talked about. It was kind of labelled as one of the worst movies ever. And I think on IMDb it's like 1.3 out of 10 or something like that. I mean, it is really, really poor. It has at least been talked about as a really, really poor film, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact that Rachel Zegler was in it. I don't actually think it was a genuinely shocking movie. I think it was just largely down to the fact that Rachel Zegler was in the movie itself. So you can understand it. Rachel Zegler's got a lot of hate, but the question is now for this particular video: has the hate for Rachel Zegler gone too far? Now, look. She definitely deserved to be slated. She definitely deserved to be put in her place, but has it gone too far? I mean, there's probably a limit, isn't there? There's probably a line between okay and then kind of going a bit too overboard with some of the comments. And Rachel Zegler has certainly been subject to a bit too much abuse. Now, of course, when Snow White dropped, Rachel Zegler made some controversial comments. I can't speak this morning. She made some controversial comments about the original Snow White movie. Basically accusing, I think, the prince of being a stalker, saying that the movie was basically drab and all this stuff, and that she didn't really enjoy it, and that she actually, apparently she even admitted that she's never actually paid too much attention to the original and not really ever watched it properly. So it's a bit strange to make that kind of comment, really, isn't it, about an original film of something that you've never actually properly seen. She also said during this, "Yes, I am Snow White, but no, I am not bleaching my skin for the role. You selfish bitch." I mean, you get given a great role and you won't even bleach your skin. What kind of monster are you? Like I said, love her or hate her, or whether you're sliced completely down the middle. Yes, she made some controversial comments. Yes, she said a couple of things or a few things that people didn't like. Yes, she said things that rub people up the wrong way. But at the end of the day, you have to kind of get out your measuring stick here and think, you know what, is what she said worthy of all these nasty comments? Because I'm not sure they are. There's been talk of her apparently now, because of all the abuse based purely on how she looks, that she's actually talking about, or she's actually made comments about getting some kind of plastic surgery or just, you know, genuine surgery to correct some of her facial features, because she's now even potentially starting to believe some of the nasty comments that some people are saying. And that's not right. It's not right. And like I said, the Snow White movie was a load of shite. It was a load of shite. And more than it was shit, it was more, I think the fact the movie got such a bad rap was mainly due to the fact that Rachel Zegler was in it, because had Rachel Zegler had not made all those controversial comments, had Rachel Zegler had not become kind of as hated as she has been, I don't think people would be actually hating on this film as much. So I think that's a fair comment. I don't think the film would be getting that much hate if Rachel Zegler wasn't in it, because I think the fact that the movie's getting so much hate is purely down, at least 85-90% down to the fact that Rachel Zegler has become one of the most hated women in America. So, you know, is the movie actually that bad? That's a question for you. I thought it was awful, but I've already gone in with the kind of preconception that the film was going to be shit. So when I actually watched it, I couldn't actually finish it. I watched about 30-40 minutes and I thought, this is really bad. But I already went in with the preconception that it was going to be a bad film because of everything people have said. I'd already gone in with this preconception that Rachel Zegler's character within the film was really bad, because that's what everyone's saying, that she's awful in the film. So I kind of already went in with a negative viewpoint of this film. If I'd have gone in with a strictly neutral view, I might have actually thought the film was, you know, watchable. But because of all the flack that the film's getting and all the flack Rachel Zegler's getting, I automatically assumed the film was going to be shit before I even watched it. So therefore, went in with a negative connotation of the film, and it ended up living up to my negative expectations. But like I said, Rachel Zegler, obviously some of the tweets she's been getting, telling people to kill themselves. Now, this is what I always find quite fascinating, right, with the human brain and how human beings tend to behave at times. if I, or if you, the people, let's just ask yourself this question: the people that are making these comments towards her, saying, you should die, you're ugly, you're this and that. Ask yourself this question: if you had a viewpoint, a strong viewpoint, and yes, perhaps if it came across that you were a bit of a dick, but let's say you just had a viewpoint that not a lot of people agreed with, would you then expect people for weeks and months on end to be wishing you dead, slagging off your appearance, saying you're worthless? Would you expect that backlash from just having a viewpoint? That's what you have to ask yourself. Now, if I was to, honestly, this is from my point of view now. I make videos criticising films. I make videos criticising, certain actors and whatnot, and talking about certain people and certain, within the kind of media spectrum. I've made quite a few videos along those lines. Now, if I made this video, or say I made a video in weeks to come and I uploaded it to YouTube, obviously you can't really abuse people on YouTube because you don't really get away with it and all this stuff, but let's say you could get away with it. Let's say for one day you could get away with it. Now let's say I uploaded a video expressing my views on a certain film or a certain actor or actress. I would not expect the day after to receive thousands of comments saying, you're this, you're that, go kill yourself, you don't know what you're talking about, you're a worthless this. I'll be thinking, whoa. All I'm doing is expressing a viewpoint. Yeah, it might not stick with some people, but I don't deserve to be wished dead. I don't deserve to be slagged off. I don't deserve to be run down by members of the public for having an opinion. I don't deserve that. But that's what you got to ask yourself. Just because Rachel Zegler's had a few strong views and that not a lot of people have agreed with, yes, her views are a bit skewed, but it doesn't mean that she deserves to be wished dead. It doesn't mean that she deserves to have all these months and months of hatred and, criticising her and bringing her down. It's not really right, is it? Just because she had a few viewpoints that no one agreed with. You have to kind of see it from a bigger viewpoint. You have to see it from a different perspective. You can't just think, oh, I don't like what she said, so I'm going to basically stalk her online. I'm going to do some cyber stalking. I'm going to wish her dead. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that, because that's not how you should behave as a human being. You shouldn't be acting like that with people. And that's exactly what's happened to Rachel Zegler. Let Rachel Zegler have her complaints. Let her have her little tantrums, if you will, and say, let her act like a spoilt brat. Let her act like a spoilt brat if she wants to. Let Rachel Zegler act like a spoilt bitch if that's who she is. It doesn't mean that you should, say, oh, you're this, you're that, you're ugly, kill yourself. Karma will probably catch up to her in the end anyway. And some people will probably say, well, karma has already caught up to her now because of what's been said about her. But that's not how you should act as a human being. You shouldn't be talking about people like that. You shouldn't be acting like that just because someone says something. Let them be them. You kind of bring yourself to their level now, and worse, by acting the way you do, by slagging her off and criticising her and making all these horrible comments. Be a bigger person. Let her act like the spoilt bitch, and you just kind of sit on the sidelines and wait for karma to catch up with her. You don't have to play karma yourself. It doesn't, not to that degree. But like I said, there's much worse happening than what she's said or done. Look at what's happening with P. Diddy right now. I mean, he's been done for all this drug stuff, sex trafficking, rape charges, all this stuff. I mean, Rachel Zegler's a bloody saint compared to Puff Daddy. And he is a puff, I tell you. He looks like a puff. Sorry to puffs. But look, like I said, you put it in the comments below. Put it in the comments below. What do you guys and girls think? Like I said, there's a lot bigger things happening. There's worse things happening than what Rachel Zegler said. And she seems to be getting a lot more hate than a lot of people, even like the guy I just mentioned, P. Diddy, who's done all these horrendous things. Rachel Zegler made a couple of comments, and she's done a few other things which, not particularly good, but they're not that bad even when you really break them down. She's not the devil incarnate. She's not done anything malice and evil. She's just kind of rubbed people up. That's basically all she's done, is rub people up the wrong way. Come on, you have to see perspective on this. Guys and girls, like and subscribe as always. Sorry I didn't make a video last week as well, but I will obviously from now on make sure I make videos every week again. There may be the odd week where obviously I skip a week due to certain circumstances, because I might have a week where I'm doing loads of stuff, but I will be trying to make sure that videos are published every single week for you guys and girls, because I know you enjoy listening to these videos. At least I hope you do anyway. I'm not quite sure if you do or not, but I'm hoping you do. If you don't, I'm sorry. But I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. Got to crack the nut. But yes, guys and girls, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you very, very shortly for another one. But like I said, like and subscribe. Be you, be unique. And don't you forget that. You are all very special and you are all unique. Remember that every single morning when you get up. If you're having a bad day, if you're having a good day, just keep telling yourself, just remind yourself of how special you are. And I will see you very, very shortly for another video right here on this channel. Bye-bye for now.